Hello guys, TavHD here and welcome back to another video, and today we're taking a look at my latest eBay purchase. And I've got no idea how I managed to find this. It's an incredibly rare item and it's probably something that most people have never heard of. But here it is. I bought an Axiotron Modbook. Now if you don't know what this thing is, there's lots of videos on YouTube which will explain it a lot better than I will. There's some good ones by the Computer Clan as well as Snazzy Labs. I'm not going to get into the history of the company at all today. We're just going to take a look at this specific Modbook. Now I got this on eBay for an incredible price of only £100. Now I originally bought it for £150 with a couple of things wrong with it, but before it got sent out to me the seller tested it and it was completely dead. So he refunded me my money, he took it to a repair shop and now it turns on and has got most of its functionality back. And I bought it off him again for £100. So not only did he have to go spend money getting this sort of fixed, he then sold it to me at a loss. So I've got this Modbook for about £100, and even if it wasn't to work, I don't really care. It's a Modbook, these are very rare, they've got quite an interesting story, and they are as a whole just a very interesting device. Now I've not just got this out of the box, I've had it about a week. I've been playing around with it a little bit and I wanted to become a bit more familiar with it before I made the video, but I've had enough time with it now and I think I know the device enough so I can make this video. Now it was sold to me as not working, with the main problem being something is wrong with the SMC. Apparently Axiotron modified the SMC from how it originally was by Apple, so this thing won't charge properly. You've got to trickle charge it, so it's always got to be plugged in. It charges really slowly and you've got to keep it plugged in so the backlight works. If I was to turn it on now, it might work or it might not. It really does just depend, and since there's something wrong with the SMC, it does some other weird things. Sometimes there's graphical artifacts on the screen and sometimes the fans just go full blast, but I don't care about any of that. Even if it was dead, £100 for one of these is great. The fact that this works at all, even in some capacity, that's also just great. So we're just going to take a look around this thing first and then we'll turn it on and take a look at the software. So if you don't know, this started off life as a normal white MacBook, then Axiotron cut the screen off and put a Wacom digitizer on the top, making this a touchscreen tablet. You can't just touch it with your finger, you've got to use the included stylus. This has right click functionality on it and you don't even have to touch the screen for it to know the pen is there. It seems to know from a bit of a distance, and we will take a look at this once I turn this thing on. But I believe the front of this is made out of titanium, the rest of it is just standard MacBook. So the bottom is just white MacBook and so are the sides. So we've got just a standard set of ports here from a white MacBook. We've of course got MagSafe 1, Ethernet, mini DVI, Firewire 400, two USB 2s, audio in and out, and a Kensington lock. That's all very standard if you know anything about the polycarbonate MacBooks. And on the other side we do have the optical drive. Not too sure if it works on this particular model, but we can always test that out later. On the front you can actually see where the cutout was to lift the lid up when this was still a MacBook, and we've also got our power light and an infrared receiver there as well. On the back it's all very standard as well. This is where the hinge would have been, that is now being replaced, and we've also got what I believe are the two speakers, and that is where the computer breathes. I'm guessing the fan is in there. On the front of this thing we have the button to recalibrate the stylus. We've also got the power button there, we've got the iSight camera. Good to see that that has been carried over. I'm not sure if this is the original camera or whether it is an aftermarket one which has been put in here. I'm not too sure. I think this is where the antennas are. I believe they would have been in the original bezel, but they've had to be moved over to this when they took the original screen off. Down here, that's where our pen is, and here it says Axiotron Modbook. Now, if you look at this screen, it's 13.3 inches. I'll put the resolution on the screen now, but you might be able to see around pretty much every edge there's some sort of distortion. That is glue from the screen that has started to seep out. The eBay seller was told by the person he bought it off that that's because this is a pre-production model. I don't know whether that is true or not. I know that the one that the Computer Clan has also has glue coming out of it. You could see that in that video. So whether this is pre-production or this is just how they were, I don't know. And also, were these ever sold in the UK? I'm not too sure. So maybe this has come all the way from America at some point. I don't know. And I don't really know how I'll find out. If anyone knows about these, please do let me know. But this screen is in very good condition. Apart from the glue, it's a bit dusty, but that's not a problem. And there doesn't seem to be any scratches on it. So this should be quite nice to use. Now I think we can take a look at the bottom of the machine. This is all pretty standard MacBook. All the standard Apple things are up here. It still says designed by Apple in California. I don't think this machine has really been used much. These feet are in very nice condition. There is only light scratching on the bottom. This plastic does actually scratch very easily, so it's nice to see that this is still in pretty good condition. Now this battery down here is fairly new. It's new old stock. It's a 2006 battery, but it's only got 6 cycles on it. The previous owner bought the battery when he thought the battery was dead on this, that's why it wouldn't work. Turns out it was the SMC, so this new battery wasn't really necessary, but we do have a nice fresh battery with only 6 cycles on it. Let's check the current charge. We've got 2 dots lighting up. Let's open this up, take the battery out, and here we've got some more information. So here we have the inside. I think an Apple sticker would have been here originally. I don't actually own one of these pre-unibody polycarbonates. This is my first one. I don't really think this one counts because of how modified it is. Also there it says the website to go to, axiotron.com. I don't believe that website will still be up. Axiotron went out of business and then they reopened as Modbook. That's when things went downhill for the company, but I'm not going to get into that today. I'm guessing that's either the serial number or the model number. It does not have its original Apple serial number anymore. That is gone. But we do still have an original Apple label in here which talks about the RAM and the drive. Now this has 6 GB of RAM in it. I'm guessing that has been upgraded. This probably would have come with 2 or 1 originally. Let's try zooming in on that a little bit more. There's a bit of a closer angle. This is a 2 GHz Core 2 Duo. It says 2 times 1 GB of RAM and a 120 GB drive. Now this does not have its original drive. It's got a 240 GB SSD. Now that does lose some of the originality, but I don't mind. This will be a lot quicker with an SSD, and I think in order to use this at all I would have had to put an SSD in it anyway, so the fact that's already done is quite convenient. It does mean I can't milk content and make a video about installing an SSD in this, but oh well, it will save me some hassle. So I'm now going to put the battery back in and then we can try turning this thing on and see exactly what happens. Okay, so this is the angle I'm going to go for now. I will change the angle once we get into this because the viewing angles on this thing are actually quite bad. If I turn this on and try to look at the screen from where I'm sitting right now, it would just look black. You do have to look at it straight on in order to see what's going on. I've got my MagSafe cable. I'm going to plug it in and there is a very dim green light showing on that, and I'll get the pen out for when we get into this thing, but all I've got to do is now press the power button. There we go, we got a bong, and also the power light down here did work, and there are lights on up here as well. I can just about see that an Apple logo is loading up. The backlight is working, which is always good. It doesn't always work, but right now it is doing. And not that you can see, it has come onto the login screen. Alright, I've got some sort of an angle. It's not particularly good, but I think it will have to do considering this thing doesn't have a stand and the viewing angles are so bad. So we are on the login screen. This is running El Capitan, which is the latest version that it will run. So I'm going to put the stylus near. You can see the cursor is moving and I'm not actually touching the display, so I'm going to just drag the on-screen keyboard out of the way. It's saying that there is no keyboard detected, but I'm going to move that too, and let's log in. The password for this account has been set to 12345, so let's go into this. Now I have installed Firefox on this thing as well as GIMP just to give it a bit of a try, and everything seemed to work just fine on that, so we'll come to that a little bit later. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up into About This Mac and just make sure that the specifications are indeed correct. So this is showing up as MacBook 13-inch early 2009. That's interesting. The last time I had this on, it wasn't showing anything for the year. It just said MacBook, so maybe that's an SMC thing, but it now seems to know what it is. Also 2 GHz Core 2 Duo, that label inside was correct. 6 GB of 667 MHz DDR2, and the graphics are the GeForce 9400M with 256 megabytes of video RAM, and then we've got the serial number for the actual Mac there as well. Move over to displays. It's actually a 13.4 inch 1280 by 800 display. This thing still thinks it's the original display there. That's what this computer would have started off life as. Now you could get these mod books as just mod books, or you could send in your MacBook to be turned into a mod book. So it would be interesting to know whether this started off life as a MacBook or whether it has always been a mod book. There's probably no way to know, but it sure would be cool to somehow find that out. Next up, storage. There we go, Macintosh HD. It's a 240 gigabyte SSD. We've got plenty of space on there, and the super drive is showing up. Also, it can do all those different formats. Memory, we've got a 2 GB stick and a 4 GB stick. Neither of those are original. This would have come with 2 1 GB sticks, so they have been upgraded at some point. Support, of course, is no more. And we've also got service there. That's completely irrelevant. We've got no Apple Care on this thing. Now, the stylus isn't exactly calibrated right, so what you can do is hold down the calibrate button and the cursor should reset, and now it is more accurate, which is very nice. I am connected to my Wi-Fi, so we can check out the internet in a little bit, but first off, let's take a look at this Modbook Quick Clicks. This is the on-screen keyboard, which has all the functionality of the standard Mac one, and we can go into the settings up here. Go into the settings by looking up here. We've got quick clicks and also quick flip to turn the display around. We've also got Modbook Pro preferences and about this Modbook Pro. Now that is interesting. This is saying Modbook Pro. This is not a Modbook Pro, this is a Modbook. The Modbook Pro came out later, and they are even more rare than these ones. This, of course, is based off a normal MacBook, while the Modbook Pros are based off a MacBook Pro. So this appears to have the wrong software installed. So if we open About This Modbook Pro, here is the Modbook system, and everything is in here. See, that's what a Modbook Pro looks like. Snazzy Labs has one of those. I do not. They are very, very rare. Now, I paid £100 for this, and the same seller I got this from is selling a Modbook Pro boxed for £2,500, so they are worth a lot more than this. But saying that, if this thing works perfectly, I could probably sell it for 500 or 600 if I wanted to. I'm not going to. I think it's best if I keep a hold of this for a few years and hopefully it will go up in value. It doesn't take up too much space, so there's no real need to get rid of it. I probably think it will be worth quite a lot in a few years, but there's some things in here that we can look at too. There's nothing really in system preferences different to look at apart from down there the Modbook system. We've just been on that. Also got ink up here. I'm just going to close out of system preferences. Now that's pretty much the Modbook software, and you can actually tell that this is for the Pro because it's got the keyboard backlight buttons. MacBooks, the plastic ones, never had backlit keyboards, so that's a little thing which I should have already noticed. I think I'm going to test out the optical drive now, and while doing that it will also test to see if the speakers work. So I've got myself an Elton John disc. I'm going to put it in. I won't be able to play it for you because of copyright, of course. Let's see if it will take it. It has now taken it. Let's look at the volume. It's quite high. I'm going to put that down a little bit. Is it going to autoplay? Is it even going to show up? We should get a disc. There we go, audio CD. It looks like it's already opening iTunes. So that seems to work. The drive managed to play that just fine, and the speakers actually get very loud on this thing. I'm assuming they're the standard speakers, but they do sound very good. They sound better than the ones on my late 2009 MacBook. That's one of the unibody ones, because I think they were under the keyboard. These ones blast out of the back, which is actually better. And there we go, it ejected my disc just fine. So the next thing we're going to do is go online. I tried using Safari, that would not work. It kept just giving me an error for every single website, so I did install Firefox. Opening up Firefox here. I'm not going to set that as default. I'm going to go on YouTube, find something copyright free, so then you can kind of hear the speakers. It doesn't really work like that with microphones and things, but this will just test YouTube playback as well. So I'll have to get the keyboard up, and let's just search for something on here. So let's just play something. I know that this is copyright free once the advert has gone. Turn up the volume. I'll put it into 1080p just to see if it will load that. Let's play it again. So that is the speakers, very loud, very, very nice. It looks like it's managing to load this entire 1080p video. I'm going to now bring up one of mine and see what the maximum resolution it can play back is. You've got to bear in mind this is a 2009 MacBook under all of this, so it's not going to do particularly well, or at least I don't think it will. This is currently my latest video. Let's take a look at this. It seems to be playing back in 1080p, and that actually looks really nice. So it is managing to play back this 1080p file. It was stuttering a little bit, but now it's loaded, it seems to be doing it just fine. Can I select anything higher? I can, but I'm not going to risk it. 1080p on this display looks great. Now the fan is starting to ramp up. I don't think that's the SMC problem, I just think it's getting hot. My 2015 MacBook Pro gets a bit upset sometimes just playing YouTube, so this isn't anything out of the ordinary. So we can now close out of Firefox. YouTube seemed to play just fine. I'm now going to open up GIMP, and we can test out the functionality and have a quick go at trying to draw something. I'm completely incompetent at drawing, so this should go quite well. I'm going to go to File, New, and that will do. And let's just try doing something here. There we go. This thing seems to be working just fine, and it's actually quite responsive. You can see it kind of loading behind where I'm putting the stylus, but that's kind of to be expected considering how old this thing is now, and this is the newest version of GIMP on El Capitan. This might run better if I installed an older version of the OS, but apparently it won't work. The previous owner tried previous versions and it would just completely brick the device, so I'm not going to try that. But this thing seems to be working just fine. Now, I don't have Photoshop or anything like that on here to test out the depth, because apparently it does have depth functionality as well. I don't know whether that even works on this model. It might be broken, but I can't test it anyway. And of course, because the screen doesn't respond to touch with a finger, you can actually lean on the display while doing things to get a bit of a better angle. Instead of having to point directly down like on a whiteboard, you can actually put your arm on it and not smudge it and interfere, just like that. This is actually quite a nice experience for writing things. I actually quite like it. Now, there is a button on the side of this pen. If I press it, I believe you can right click in some situations. It doesn't seem to want to let me do it inside of GIMP. That's fine. I'm going to close out of it. Okay, so I just right clicked and made a new folder. If you hold it down then press the bottom of the button, that triggers a right click. If you touch the top of the button, it doesn't seem to do anything outside an application, and there is also a button on the end. I guess that could be used as an eraser in some things. It doesn't seem to do much as standard, but of course this really comes into its own if you're using some sort of professional software. I don't have any, so I can't really test it out, but overall, just navigating through the operating system and having a look on YouTube, this thing seems to work just fine. I don't really see any of the problems that the seller said it had, and everything for me is working just as it should. I think this is actually still a pretty cool and competent device. If I had to do something where I had to draw something, instead of using a mouse on my computer, I might just get this out, do some drawing on it like this, and then just drag the file over through file sharing or something like that. This seems to work very, very nicely. So here we are. I think that's where I'm going to end this video for today. There's not really too much I can test with this without installing extra programs, and I just don't have time right now, and I also don't own any other programs to test this thing out with. But this was just a quick video to take a look at the device, and it seems to be working just fine, and I am very, very happy with it. For £100 to have such a rare and cool piece of equipment, as well as it seems to work, I'm very, very impressed with it. And even though it is a 12-year-old computer now, it still seems to be pretty competent at doing things inside the operating system and on the internet. So even if I was to completely ignore the fact that this is a mod book, I could quite easily do some web browsing and YouTube video watching on this if I really wanted to. Now, there may be more videos about this thing in the future. Maybe if it breaks we can try and fix it, or maybe we can just test it out a bit more. Who knows? But I think that that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully it was interesting. This is a very interesting machine. I would recommend watching some other videos if you want to learn a bit more about the company. And Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, was actually involved in the development of this machine. Of course, this was before the iPad came out, so there was actually a market for these. Now, most people would just get an iPad, but I would be interested to see if anyone would still want a macOS tablet in the future. Of course, Modbook might finally bring theirs out. Who knows? I guess we'll just have to see. But that will now be it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I am very, very happy with this device. I'll now turn it off and put it back on my shelf, where it will probably go up in value without me doing anything to it. This is definitely something I'll be keeping a hold of just because it's such a special machine. So thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.